Emily's mom invited her to a quick family dinner. Upon arrival, her mom pointed to the table at the back and said, "You can sit there. We need room for the main group." Emily simply nodded, ordered a drink, and quietly handed her card to the server. Then she approached the host and said, "Put everything from that table under their name." About 20 minutes later, her dad exclaimed, "Why is the bill more than 1,700?" Emily admitted she had felt uneasy even before entering the restaurant. That kind of unease where you sense something is off but cannot clearly explain why. Her intuition told her this dinner was more than just a meal together. She tried to brush it off as just a normal family dinner, thinking, how bad could it really be? Emily's mom had texted just days earlier with a simple invite. "Quick dinner with family this Saturday. Nothing big." Emily hesitated before replying. The last time they gathered, she had ended up paying the entire bill, which was nearly $900, and nobody even seemed bothered. Her dad had joked, "Good thing Emily has no kids to support," and everyone laughed as if it was funny. Emily did not find it amusing. She had told them she would help if they ever needed support, but it was meant as a kind offer, not a permanent responsibility. Still, after not seeing them for 2 months, guilt won over reason. So she accepted the invitation. When she entered the restaurant, she immediately spotted the long table by the window where everyone was already sitting, her dad telling jokes, her aunt sipping wine, her twin brother taking selfies with their mom. The only one missing was her. Perhaps I was never meant to be there. I walked over and gave a small wave. My mom turned around, smiled, and pointed behind her as if she were assigning me a seat on a bus. "You can sit there," she said. "We need space for the real group." I hesitated. She did not even blink when she said it. She just turned back as if she had ordered the soup. I remained silent. I glanced at the empty table in the corner, dimly lit, wedged between the kitchen door and the restrooms, and simply moved over. Fine. If they want to treat me like an afterthought, I will play along. I ordered an old-fashioned and nodded to the waiter as if everything was perfectly normal. Then I called him back, slid my card across the table, and said just loud enough, "Everything from that table, put it on them. Mine is only this drink." He blinked once. I smiled and said, "You got it?" He nodded. I think he was actually eager to do it. The next 25 minutes felt like watching a show. They were laughing, toasting, ordering everything on the menu. My uncle chose the ribeye. My brother had 2 different appetizers at once. My dad picked a bottle of wine that cost $130 and poured it like it was soda. My mom kept summoning the waiter like he was her personal assistant. They had no idea. I waited and sipped, savoring every moment. Then suddenly it happened. From across the room, I heard my dad's voice erupt like a volcano. "Why is it over, Mark?" Everyone turned around. My aunt leaned in, puzzled. My brother froze with his phone halfway to his face. I stood up and moved over as if it was simply time to say farewell. I covered the entire bill, even left a gratuity, I mentioned casually. Mark brightened instantly. Emily gave me the warmest smile I had seen from her in many years. They all looked at me like I had just paid off their entire mortgage. I waved goodbye and walked away. Easy. What they did not understand was that the waiter was still following instructions. I asked him to return the bill to them once I had left. I had not even reached the parking lot when shouting erupted from the hallway. "Wait. What?" She only covered her own drink. "Emily." I got into my car and drove off before anyone could catch up. The air had never felt as pure and fresh. The following morning, a knock came at my door. My mom and dad stood there with tired expressions. Mark entered immediately without any greeting. It was a total of $2,000. They arrived at exactly 9:12 in the morning, no prior notice, just 2 firm knocks. Then Mark walked into my apartment as if it were his property. Emily followed behind, quieter than usual, as if sensing the confrontation would be unpleasant. He dropped the receipt on the kitchen counter as though it was crucial evidence in court. It added up to $2,000. No good morning. No how are you. Just that number. I glanced at the receipt but did not touch it. I only paid for my drink, I said. That was when the real drama began. He started pacing in circles, clearly worked up, throwing accusations at me. We raised you better than this. This behavior is beneath us. You have humiliated us. Your uncle had to cover the tip. He made it sound as if I had set their house ablaze. My mother only spoke when he paused to catch his breath. Emily, we simply thought you would support us. Support. That was the term they always relied on. Support me by covering all expenses. Support me by sitting at a small table like an overlooked cousin. Support me by staying silent so the others could enjoy themselves. I listened quietly. I let them talk for more than 1 hour. I hardly said a single word. When they finished, I said, "You are angry because I treated you exactly the way you treated me." That quieted him for half a second, but he did not reply. He just turned around and stormed off with my mother following him. I believed it was all over. 10 minutes later, I heard a loud smash outside. I rushed to the window and saw my father jogging back to the car. My mother was already seated in the front passenger seat. The driver's side window of my car was shattered. Glass scattered everywhere. A rock was resting on the seat. They did not hesitate. They drove away as if nothing had happened. I stood there, staring at the damage. I did not scream. I did not chase after them. Instead, I went inside, opened my laptop, and reviewed the footage from the security cameras I had installed the previous autumn after a package was stolen. There it was, crystal clear. My father walking toward the car, looking around, picking up a rock, and hurling it directly through my window. I saved the recording. Then I filed a police report. I told the officer everything and handed over the video. He asked if I wanted to press charges or just settle the matter. Compensation. I insisted that every single penny be returned. That broken window was not merely damage. It conveyed a clear statement. My reply was just as intentional. By the week's end, Mark had lost $420. No insurance, no justifications. He settled his debt. But my actions did not stop there. I opened my banking application and examined the shared account titled Family Expenses. For 9 months, I had been transferring $2,000 monthly into it. This began after they claimed financial hardship. Repairs, bills, groceries. I agreed to help temporarily, convinced we were all collaborating. However, strange things soon caught my attention. Sudden shopping sprees, Mark posting from new cafes nonchalantly, Uber rides from campus to beach gatherings. Meanwhile, I was told every dollar was crucial to keeping the family afloat. I shut it down, secured the account, changed all passwords, removed linked transfers, and left the balance at 0. 3 days later, chaos followed. 15 missed calls from my mom, 6 from my dad. Even my aunt messaged me, insisting there must have been a misunderstanding. Mark sent me a brief message. "What the hell, Emily?" I didn't respond. About a week later, as if nothing had occurred, they arrived again. This time all smiles. My dad embraced me at the door. My mom carried a box of pastries. They settled on the couch and spoke about forgiveness, unity, and new beginnings. Mark was not present, yet his name came up multiple times. "We've all experienced tough times," my mom said. "Let's just move forward as a united family." We were thinking," my dad added, "maybe we could all go out again, just have a pleasant evening." I nodded, smiled, and said, "That sounds wonderful." They left feeling as if they had triumphed. They believed everything was behind us now. A few courteous words, some pastries, and a hug. Suddenly, we were a family once more. That was exactly what they desired. I allowed them to think so. When they proposed that we all dine out together just to reconnect, I agreed at once. I chose the location myself. Somewhere upscale, with chandeliers hanging so low they almost whisper secrets in your ear. I even called ahead to ensure we would have a private table. It had to seem authentic. On Saturday evening, I arrived 10 minutes early, already dressed as if nothing could bother me. A white blouse, a clean watch, and a smile ready. They appeared together, all dressed nicer than usual. My mom looked pleased. My dad actually chuckled when he saw the venue. "Let's not repeat what happened last time, right?" he said, nudging me gently with his elbow. I smiled back. No chance. We sat down and ordered wine. They seemed at ease, like a great weight had been lifted. My mom even mentioned she felt this was a fresh start. My aunt kept nodding throughout the meal as if she'd just come back from therapy. My brother barely glanced up from his phone except to roll his eyes at the waiter. Everything was unfolding exactly as I intended. They did not restrain themselves. Starters were treated like they were dining with royalty. Steaks and seafood followed with the same grandeur. Towers, 2 bottles of wine. My father made 2 toasts, both unclear and self-praising. My mother kept glancing at me as if she wanted to express her pride but could not find the words to say it. I sat through the entire event like a seasoned performer. Near the end, I checked my phone, stood up calmly, and said, "My girlfriend is calling. I will be right back." I passed by the restrooms, walked down the corridor, nodded at the waiter holding the bill, and slipped out through the side door. I got into my car and drove away. I didn't need to witness what happened next to imagine it perfectly. About 10 minutes later, the waiter would have presented the bill to their table. I knew precisely what amount was there, 147 before the tip. I also knew exactly how my father would react. First, he would crack a joke, but then his smile would fade. My mother would ask the waiter if a mistake had been made. My brother would accuse someone of pulling a prank. Then, the truth would settle in, and I would already be far gone. When I got home, I found 40 missed calls and 4 voicemails waiting for me. The first message was calm, the second louder, but the last 2 were just heavy breathing and yelling in the background. My brother sent an avalanche of texts that swung wildly between threats, pleas, and insults. Then came the knock on my door. This time they did not wait a day. An hour later, Mark, my mother, and my brother stood at my doorstep. No smiles, no pastries, no false warmth. "You humiliated us," Mark said once again. "You crossed a line," my mother added, her voice trembling. My brother dominated the conversation. He spoke the most, called me weak, accused me of holding grudges, and claimed I had no idea what family truly meant. I remained silent for a while, allowing them to believe they were still in control. Then I glanced at my brother and posed a straightforward question. "Who do you think has been covering your tuition payments?" His expression froze immediately. My mom and dad exchanged puzzled looks. $30,000 every year, I stated calmly. 4 semesters paid for, without a word. "You're welcome." The room fell completely silent. My dad attempted to speak, but this time I did not permit it. "Want to discuss crossing boundaries?" "That stops right now. The payments are halted. If he wants to finish his education, he has to figure it out himself." My brother looked like he wanted to yell, but had no idea where to direct his anger. Then I relaxed and allowed the moment to stretch. "You manipulated us," my mom whispered, barely audible. "No," I responded. "I only learned from the best." They lingered for another 20 minutes, trying to twist the situation, make me appear the bad guy. At one point, my aunt even called during the conversation, likely aiming to diffuse the tension. I let it ring. Before leaving, my dad said, "This is not over." I nodded, fully aware. That evening, I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. Following that final dinner, the calls did not stop. I ignored them. 40 missed calls in one night grew to 70 across the weekend. Then they began sending texts as if nothing had happened. On Monday morning, my mom messaged me, "Let's move past all of this." "We love you," my father added. "We are still a family. We have to behave accordingly. It is necessary." Soon enough, the attitude shifted dramatically. By Tuesday, the text took a harsh turn. "You are hurting everyone. You are acting selfishly." And my Aunt Emily's personal favorite, "Do not let money define who you are." As if they had not already done exactly that for me. Then my brother contacted me. He offered no apologies. He did not even inquire about my well-being. Instead, he simply asked if I had resolved the tuition problem yet. I said no. Then he ended the call. About an hour later, a long email arrived from my mother. It was meant to be sincere. I suppose it was. But halfway through, she wrote something that made me clench my jaw tightly. "We have sacrificed so much for you. You owe it to us not to walk away now." The word sacrifice echoed in my mind for days. I kept recalling the months I had been funding that shared account, $2,000 each month without any questions asked. Groceries, house repairs, and utility bills. That was what they insisted it was for. But I had access to the statements. Silently, I had saved screenshots of the outgoing payments. It was not just groceries. There were salon appointments, spa days, and car detailing. My brother withdrew $400 in a single week marked as campus emergency. It turned out it was for a concert. So I waited. Then on Friday night, I sent a group message to all of them. Mom, Dad, Aunt, Uncle, and my brother. It included 3 images. A screenshot of the shared account history, a screenshot showing my bank's total contributions, and a photo of a handwritten note that my dad left me last year reads, "We are proud of you. You care for us better than we deserve." No words, just those 3 pictures. They did not reply immediately, but I knew they had seen it. On Saturday morning, I finally received a visit, but not from my parents. It was my cousin Ashley. She stood on my porch holding 2 coffees and looked like she had just escaped a fire. "They have been telling everyone that you are having a breakdown," she said, "that you are paranoid and trying to punish the family. My mom tried to convince me that you were just emotionally unstable, but I have seen the account history. I understand what they have been doing." I did not say much. Ashley was never one to sugarcoat things. We talked for nearly an hour. Then she shared something that stayed with me. "They no longer see you as a person, just a function. You stopped paying, and now they are unsure how to behave." That was the shock I was not ready for. Not only that they exploited me, but that they never considered it wrong. They felt entitled to it. Later that evening, my mom sent me a message saying, "We want to fix this. Let's all meet. One dinner, no drama. Your father says he is willing to forget everything. If you just come, forget everything." As if he was the one granting forgiveness. I told her I would think about it. I am not going. I began packing the night I received my mom's message. One dinner, no drama. Your father says he is willing to let. Everything will work out if you just show up. That phrase echoed in my mind like constant background chatter as I packed up the life I had created into cardboard boxes. My apartment was modest but full of meaning. Pictures I no longer glanced at, clothes I never wore anymore, tokens of a family that turned my loyalty into a form of payment. I chose not to tell anyone I was leaving. No farewells were owed. They had not earned that much. 3 days later, I signed a lease for a new apartment, several hundred miles away in another state, in a small town where life moved slower and no one recognized my name. It felt refreshing, as if turning the page of a book without revisiting the previous lines. But before I left, I took one last step. I logged into the system managing tuition payments for my brother's college and officially stopped all future contributions, removing myself from responsibility for that account. Then I erased my name completely. The following day, I received a screenshot from Ashley, my cousin, containing a message from my brother in our family group chat. He asked why his tuition was unpaid and mentioned receiving a warning from the administration that he might be dropped next semester if the issue wasn't resolved soon. My mother accused Emily of causing trouble, followed by my father saying she was seeking revenge and that they would deal with it, allowing her to have her fleeting victory. But I knew they would not be able to fix the situation because I had also cut off the backup source of funds, the secret emergency fund I had created. When Mark asked me for a temporary loan last year, $12,000 disappeared, transferred to my personal account, rightfully mine. I understood something they never did. That new SUV they got last spring was partially funded through the very account I was contributing to every single month. Without my contribution, the numbers simply did not add up anymore. $30,000 annually for tuition, $900 monthly for insurance and gasoline, home repairs, their upgraded lifestyle. It all depended on me until it stopped. When I left town, I took only what was essential. Everything else I either donated, threw away, or sold. My new place is smaller and more organized. Finally, mine. I changed my phone number but left my old one active for a single reason: to monitor the flood of missed calls. They reached out from unfamiliar numbers, sent emails, and even sent a handwritten letter begging me to reconsider for the well-being of the family. Then came the surprising turn. A message from my aunt saying they might pursue legal action if I did not continue supporting them. Legal action. I couldn't help but laugh aloud in my new kitchen when I read that. No contract, no formal agreement, just a sense of entitlement now becoming desperate. And then, silence. That was exactly 1 week ago. Now I find myself watching the sunset over a city where they will never be able to locate me, reflecting on how long I let things drag before finally choosing my own peace. They transformed me into their provider, and now they must learn to live without one. It has been 3 months. 3 months free from obligatory dinners and forced smiles. Apologies or guilt disguised as affection no longer control me. I wake up now without reaching for my phone, without anticipating what kind of manipulation might be waiting in my messages. The silence is refreshing. So is the freedom it brings. I adjusted faster than I thought possible. New apartment, new work environment, a new cafe down the street that knows my order by heart. I even started seeing someone. Nothing serious so far, but genuine and different. She understands the chaos I left behind, and for the first time, I am not ashamed to talk about it openly. I assumed breaking ties would feel heavier. Instead, it feels like removing a splinter you didn't know had been causing pain for years. The last message I received from them was 2 weeks ago. My brother wrote, "You've ruined everything. Hope it was worth it." I chose not to respond. My mother sent a photo of the house, a subtle attempt to awaken nostalgia. The caption said, "Still your home if you want it." It is not. Not anymore. Word spread among the wider family. Several relatives reached out, expressing their pride in me. One of my uncles even admitted, "You did what I never had the courage to do." I did not expect that, but it clarified something. This was never just about my family. It was about a system of taking, of duty disguised as tradition. As for my parents, they have fallen silent again, likely hoping time will heal everything, that I will eventually feel nostalgic, forget the stone thrown through my car window and the manipulation I endured. The way they chuckled together around the actual group table is something I will not forget. But here's the truth. I do not despise them. I simply cannot trust them, and that marks the difference. I have begun to create a life that no longer depends on their approval, their company, or their money-driven customs. I stopped visiting their social media profiles, ceased worrying about their well-being, and gave up expecting an honest apology from any of them. Still, I keep notes because a feeling tells me this tale is far from over. They will act again. Perhaps not soon, possibly not directly, but I know them well enough to doubt they have truly abandoned their schemes. Should that day come, I will be ready and right once more. If there is one lesson they should have learned by now, it is that I do not initiate conflicts. I only conclude them. The update I never believed would come arrived. 2 months had slipped by since I walked away, and I adjusted to the reality that this was my new existence. A quiet apartment, serene mornings without guilt, and being buried in messages. I stopped anticipating disaster around the corner, convinced the chapter had closed. Then one Friday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Mark, my uncle, who had always maintained just enough neutrality to be trusted when everyone else either betrayed me or looked the other way. We had not spoken since I moved. I assumed he merely checked in, but after brief chit-chat, he changed tone. He said, "I believe you deserve to understand what has been happening back home," she said. I stayed quiet and simply absorbed her words. For the first time in a long while, what I learned did not ignite anger inside me. It turned out, once I severed ties and withdrew my aid, everything changed rapidly. All the financial support keeping them comfortable, along with the discreet protection I had quietly provided, vanished instantly, and no one remained to fill the gap. So they had to manage on their own. My father, the very man who once declared, "Physical work is for those who did not put in enough effort," took a side job at a nearby auto service center. He worked full shifts on weekends with no complaints or showboating, just dedication. My mother stopped her weekly gatherings with friends, canceled salon visits, started clipping coupons again, cooked more frequently, managed the bills personally, and even sold the sport utility vehicle I helped them buy last year. They did not merely reduce their lifestyle, they humbled themselves deeply. However, the part that truly amazed me was the news about my brother. The same brother who used to ridicule me for being overly concerned about money now holds night shifts at a fast food restaurant close to his university. He shares rent costs with roommates, brings his own meals, and has not asked our parents for a single cent in over 1 month. He said he refuses to add any burden to Mom and Dad. My uncle mentioned that my brother feels remorse about how things unfolded, confessing that this first real work experience is teaching him humility. That revelation struck me with an unexpected intensity. But my uncle was not finished. He explained that my parents, on their own and without any pressure, shared something with him they thought I needed to hear. They said, "We understand we damaged something with Emily. We realize it cannot be fixed right away, but if she ever chooses to return home, we will stop pretending. We will ask for her forgiveness and truly mean it this time." I did not reply immediately. I just sat there looking at the wall. It was not the apology or even the effort that struck me. It was the possibility that finally they had stopped talking and started learning. That evening, I went out and walked along the water's edge, hands tucked inside my jacket pockets, reflecting on everything that had happened, from the restaurant to the rock, through my window, to the point where I cut them off completely. I replayed it all in my mind, not with anger or regret, but to comprehend how far things had fallen and how far they might be healing since then. I no longer trust empty words. I trust consistent actions. And this time, the pattern seems to be shifting. I am not moving back in or rushing to embrace them warmly or join holiday dinners as if nothing ever occurred. But I believe I will visit, not to forgive them yet, but to observe who they become without me. If they truly mean what they said and plan to ask for forgiveness, then I will be ready to listen. If not, I will be prepared to leave again. I will write after that visit, because if this story has taught me anything, it is that endings can be rewritten. Several weeks afterward, I made the drive again, but this time not to the house. I was not ready to face that yet. Instead, I went to have lunch with my uncle at the diner we frequented when I was a child. I sat in the corner booth with its worn-out table and the habit of refilling coffee without being asked. He had arrived before me, already sipping black coffee while examining a printed document that resembled insurance papers. When he noticed me, he rose and embraced me genuinely. Not a casual hug, but one where the arms lingered a moment longer than expected. He did not pressure me to visit them, nor did he make me feel guilty or preach. He simply said, "They are making an effort, Emily." They truly are. I nodded silently, offering no promises. That night, I drove past the house again, but never stopped. Instead, I circled the block once. The lights were on inside, and the front yard appeared somewhat more neglected than usual. One of the hedges was clearly struggling to survive. The large SUV was gone, replaced by an older car with mismatched hubcaps. I parked a couple of streets away and strolled to a nearby park, settling on the same bench where I used to read at 17, dreaming about college. I remained there until darkness fell, then quietly left. No confrontation, no dramatic display, only small gifts. During that weekend, my mother sent me a message. It included a photograph of the very hedge that had looked so frail, now freshly trimmed and watered. There was no caption. It did not solve anything instantly, but it was not an attempt at manipulation either. That was something new. Within the next week, I received a letter from my father. Handwritten, not typed, not emailed or texted. It was something personal and sincere. The note was clumsy and messy, with smudged ink and a few lines crossed out. Yet it contained something I had not heard from him in years. He said he was sorry. He did not blame me. He did not ask for money. He did not even request a visit. He simply expressed his apology. That affected me deeply. It was not a complete healing, but it created a crack in the wall I had built around myself. I have not responded yet. It is not because I want to punish him, but because I am still observing the recurring pattern. I have learned to be cautious and deliberate with forgiveness. You do not give it away as freely as candy, just because someone utters the right phrases once. You watch carefully. You wait patiently. You see who they truly are when they believe you will never return. Several more weeks have passed now. My phone no longer lights up as it once did. The messages have ceased. The calls have stopped as well. This silence feels different now. It does not feel like abandonment, but rather respect. My cousin Ashley continues to check on me. She visited me in the new city. We strolled along the riverside, reminisced about college days with laughter, and shared dessert at a small tucked-away bakery. She told me, "You look lighter." I am lighter. I have begun writing again. Not just these reflections, but also real stories, imagining characters who reclaim their strength. I believe I needed this space to rediscover my voice. My new life is not flawless, but it is entirely mine. I arrange everything as I choose. I purchase foods I genuinely enjoy. I sleep more soundly. I no longer flinch when my phone buzzes. Occasionally, I still think of the past, the family dinners before everything became complicated. Backyard celebrations, movie evenings on Fridays. Yet I refuse to let nostalgia deceive me. It was not always perfect. Cracks appeared long before the walls tumbled down. I have stopped convincing myself those cracks were simply personality traits. They were signs of trouble. Now I act deliberately. I give when I genuinely want to, not out of obligation or guilt. I answer calls that I choose, not those I feel forced to take. I spend time with people who create a sense of safety, not with those who exhaust me and disguise it as love. I am not sure if I will ever fully return to the past. But I do know this. If others keep evolving, I will meet them halfway gradually and carefully. If they regress, I will walk away silently and without fanfare, because at last I realize I do not need a family that only cares for me when I am useful. I need people who love me even when I say no. Now that I have learned to say it, I will never forget how. This is not a tale of revenge, but one of clarity. If you have ever felt like a walking wallet or a support for a crumbling legacy that was never meant for you, perhaps this is your story as well. I am Emily,